What's up, guys? It's Wilkin Formby. You're watching Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR.
This is what being a NASCAR fan is all about. Singular history and tradition. Unmatched on-track intensity. And triple-header playoffs action to ratchet up the stakes. Throw in a can't-miss concert, camping, and the legendary atmosphere of Talladega Boulevard. And you've got more than a race. You've got Talladega. Get your tickets now at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com.
Roll Tide and welcome to this Tuesday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. This is Roger Hoover. Good to be back with you in our studios here in Tuscaloosa as we get into week 2 for the Alabama Crimson Tide football team. We'll take a look at what's coming up on the show, plus our headlines, thanks to our friends RJ Young. RJ Young, the official technology solutions provider of Crimson Drive. They've given us this smartboard to go through everything in a very interactive way to begin the show. First of all, we'll hear from Wilkin Formby, right tackle for the Crimson Tide, a Tuscaloosa native. We'll talk about all the work done in the offseason to get ready for the start of this year for Alabama football, plus his friendships with some of his teammates on the offensive line like Caden Proctor. Then Chris Stewart will join us to look back at the Florida State game, preview ULM, and also preview what's coming up tomorrow with Hey Coach and the Kalen DeBoer Show at Baumhauer's in Tuscaloosa. Speaking of Baumhauer's, we were there last night in Vestavia Hills for a Labor Day edition of our first Crimson Tide Rewind of the year. You'll get thoughts from Tyler Watts on Alabama's game against Florida State, and Be Kind Crimson Tide Rewind to close out the show. Football headlines for the Crimson Tide, falling on Saturday at Florida State 31-17. Despite Alabama beginning the game with a touchdown on its first drive, Crimson Tide trailed by 10 at halftime, ultimately fall by 14 to the Seminoles, again 31-17. First time that the Crimson Tide have lost a season opener overall since 2001. That was at home against UCLA. Now this week it's Alabama at home against ULM, and the Crimson Tide have won, I believe, 23 straight times in home openers since then. So Alabama against ULM coming up on Saturday. 6:45 will be the kickoff. Our radio airtime will be 3:30 p.m. and we will be starting our show outside of Extra Security Champions Lane, just outside the Walk of Champions in Saban Field. We'll have more on that coming up on Thursday's show. Looking at other headlines with the soccer and volleyball teams, a soccer team keeps rolling. A huge 3-0 win against Mercer this past Friday. Now a little bit of time for the Crimson Tide before they gear up for a huge road trip to Tobacco Road. First of all, taking the defending national champions, North Carolina Tar Heels. They'll take them on coming up on Thursday, and then Sunday against Duke, a team that's also been, I believe, #1 at one point this season. So great matchups coming up later in the week on the road for Alabama soccer. For the volleyball team, a great start to the season, sweeping the Crimson Tide Invitational with a pair of matches on Friday and one against UAB on Saturday. Now coming up this week, they'll head to Chattanooga, Tennessee for the Chattanooga Classic against the UTC Mocs, as well as the Cincinnati Bearcats. Right now, we're talking football, and we're talking with Wilkin Formby, who's joined us a lot throughout the last couple of years, either on Hey Coach or on Crimson Drive. He joined us in studio just prior to the season beginning to talk about his transformation in the weight room, getting ready for this season of Crimson Tide football. Roll Tide and welcome back to Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. We're at the LLH Healthcare Advantage Center. Roger Hoover now pleased to be joined by Crimson Tide right tackle Wilkin Formby, Tuscaloosa native, as we get ready for 2025. And Wilkin, Roll Tide, man, how's the summer gone for you?
Yes, sir. Roll Tide. First off, the summer's been going really well. We've had a great opportunity to grow, and our strength staff has really stepped up this year and poured into us a lot. And Coach Blue has had a different leadership role than he's had in the past years, and he's been bringing the right intensity for us, and it's been reciprocated very well for the players.
Let's start with him. What makes him different than any other strength coach you've had before?
I think him, along with the entire staff at Alabama, I mean, it's just like the standard of excellence that they carry at Alabama. But I mean, he's set apart from the other coaches. The intensity he brings, he's very consistent with his work and how he brings his intensity each day. And every player on the team is so thankful for him and the leadership that he brings as well for our program.
And of course, you got a lot of great technology to play with in the weight room.
Yes.
That makes it a little different than any other weight room you've been in before. I mean, how do you guys utilize all that data?
There's so many things, and I'm so not qualified to talk about the stuff that we do and the tools that we use. But I think the biggest piece is the competition piece in the weight room. We have TVs and monitors that show everyone's power and speed and different things, and there's rankings. So every day you have to go in there and look. If you're not towards the top, you have to deal with that and do some soul searching and figure out what do you need to do to get to the top. So he provides that for us to keep a healthy competition every day.
Healthy competition. I imagine a lot of guys are looking at one name at the top, Caden
Right.
Proctor. I mean, along with you, but I mean, Caden has put, from what we've heard from some reports and things that are out there, he puts up ridiculous numbers in there.
He does. The number one is Parker Brailsford because it's whoever's the most well-rounded.
Oh, okay.
So it's whether it's squat, power clean, bench, but also running or broad jump or different things. And Parker is. I still remember when Parker had just got to Alabama, and me and J-Rob were squatting at racks next to each other, and we were doing like a speed squat day to see who could get the most velocity on the bar while having a lot of weight to produce the most power. And me and J-Rob were going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And after the set was over, we looked up, and it was Parker Brailsford at number one, and then us below him, and we were like, what is happening? So, yeah, that was a good memory that we had when Parker first got here.
Yeah, workout warrior. Parker, we had just talked with him a little bit ago in this room, and you can really tell his leadership style. How did he impact this team from day one? How has he carried it forward into the second year?
He's done a great job impacting our team day one. Like you said, I think the biggest thing is like filling that emptiness of the leadership role we had with Tyler Booker. Last year, we knew that was going to be tough, and I think him along with Caden Proctor have done a really good job. But Parker, his intensity has just been unmatched, and the way that he carries himself in the building. And the biggest thing is with a leader like that, he's so consistent that you don't question what he says because of the consistency that he brings. So he's been doing a great job with his leadership role.
He really anchors everything as the center of the offensive line. Tell us about the guard competition. What have you seen from Gino Vanderbark? We know he's spent some time at center as well. And then Cam Dewberry coming in as well.
Both those guys are doing a great job just bringing the intensity. And both those guys bring a leadership role to our room as well. Older players, they played a lot of football, so it brings a lot of comfort to the players, but also I'm sure the staff. So just the consistency with both those guys, bringing the intensity every single day at practice, and as Coach Cap calls it, bringing the juice.
That's certainly good. We're talking a little bit about your summer as we get ready for the season. I do want to ask you about something that happened in June. You got to host a football camp at Northridge High School. How special was that?
It was a wonderful opportunity, and it was just a great time to try to be able to give back to the community that I was brought up in, and I got to experience looking up to college players, NFL players, whatever it is, even high school players in Tuscaloosa that I looked up to. So it was a great opportunity to use the influence that I have as an Alabama football player and to be able to pour into those kids. And it was also a faith-based camp, so it was a good opportunity to just share my testimony and what the Lord has done in my life to those kids at such a young age.
Who are some of your teammates that helped you out the most with that?
I actually was surprised. There were a lot of people that did show up, and one of the main reasons that I did it in May, or I didn't do it in May, was because my teammates could come. If I did it in May, I would have been one of the only guys there. So Caden Proctor, Richard Young, Parker Brailsford, Jeremy came, Tim Keenan came, and a few other guys, I'm sure. Baker Hickman, a few other guys, I'm sure I'm forgetting. And then Clinton Dix also came. I'm sure a couple of those kids had no clue that there was a legend walking around on the field.
That's certainly cool to see. So,
No doubt.
Again, part of a great summer for you is you've been battling hard in the right tackle competition. And looking at your playing time this year, how did all your opportunities last year help prepare you for this 2025 season?
I just think I'm just so thankful for last year and the opportunities that I had to get reps and to play and to understand and get those kind of nerves out, especially earlier in the season when you're on the field and there's a lot of people watching and you're wanting to perform well, especially for your teammates. Your teammates work so hard. Our offensive line room stays after practice, grinds every day. So not wanting to let anyone down and being able to get those nerves out the way and just build confidence in myself and in my teammates as well.
You mentioned early in the year, I think a lot of people saw the Ties That Bind, the Fox Nation documentary. Kind of showed what you went through, what your family went through during some of those early games. What was important in getting to share that message of what it was like for you during those weeks?
I think the biggest thing was like when the producers talked to me and Caden was kind of talking about our experience, our shared experiences with early in our career, having some ups and downs and being able to kind of like a lot of times with men or with football players, you don't want to talk about necessarily your feelings, but we're human and we do have feelings. And so I think that was a big thing, being able to just express like nobody wants to succeed more than we do. And so like when everybody's going crazy and stuff like that, it's upsetting, but like it's more just not being too disappointed in yourself and things like that and being able to lean on your teammates and your coaches.
You mentioned Caden Proctor a few times. Again, a
Mhm.
great friendship with you guys. I
Mhm.
think I remember interviewing you at Hey Coach, and I was
Mhm.
like, are you staying in touch with
Yeah.
Caden? You're like, yeah, he's right there. I was like, oh my goodness, he really is coming back. How did you stay in touch with him all during that time
Yeah.
he was at Iowa, and then eventually he makes that call to come back home?
I mean, we're best friends. He's like family to me. And I was telling somebody the other day, like he's in our family group text, like the Formby family group text. So like he's always at my house, always around my family. So we have a great bond and a great relationship. And so actually, when he transferred, he had never been to the beach before. And so we both figured out that we had spring break at the same time. So we went to Destin, Florida together and spent time. We went deep sea fishing, just gotta have a good time, a little break from football, hung out with each other. It was probably the first time we've seen each other since he left. So it was a good time for him to be around my family. And I was just telling him about, at this point, this was Coach DeBoer's first spring, and Coach DeBoer had just gotten there. So we were kind of talking about the new things, how practice has changed, kind of how things look, the new schedule, the new practicing in the morning, having music at practice, all the new things. And so we were talking about that, and I was like, you should come back. And then we were just talking, and we were like fantasizing about like it would be cool if like we could play together and all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. And then he was like, I actually think like I might come back. And so like we were just continuing to have dialogue, like you and like my family was like, come on, like you should come back. And so we were kind of just pushing him like to make that decision. And then ultimately he felt like that was what was best for him and his family. And so it was an awesome experience.
Oh, that's really good on Caden's part to take ownership of that decision.
Right.
First of all, to leave, then ask the coaching staff to come back. But I feel
Mhm.
like it says a lot about Coach DeBoer and the culture he has
Mhm.
too, welcoming in Caden the way you
Mhm.
guys did.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. And the culture that he's building is great.
That's certainly good to see. Speaking of culture, we've talked about this offensive line.
Mhm.
How about with Coach Cap? How does it keep things loose for you guys
Yeah.
during what can be some long days
Yeah.
and some are long meetings, I imagine, at times as well?
Coach Cap has a great personality, and sometimes when things get really intense, he's able to loosen up the room and stuff, and keep his great personality around. But also, he's very intense. And the thing I'm most thankful for with Coach Cap is the consistency that he brings. And every single day, you're going to get the same Coach Cap, and that's one thing I'm most thankful for.
Earlier this season or this summer at SEC Media Days, Caden talked about his go-to Taco Casa order, and he said he got a couple of hints from you on it. First of all, I got to ask you, with your family connection with Taco Casa, what's your go-to order?
It's the tough. That's a tough answer because me and him will go a lot and we'll switch it up and try to swap things out. But me and him, this is speaking for both of us. Like we both love taco burgers. A lot of people don't. They're kind of skeptical. Like I don't know how I feel about that. But that's me and his. That's our favorite thing to get, and you can't go wrong with that. And then another thing, we'll both get the enchiladas, but we'll get with substitute the white sauce for the yellow sauce. So we'll get white sauce and then a flour tortilla. Those are two of my favorite things to get there.
So those are good menu hacks. Yeah.
It is, yeah, some menu hacks for sure.
And that's really cool that you get to work a family business into what you're doing as a
Yeah.
college athlete. Before NIL, that couldn't happen, right?
Yeah, it is a very special opportunity. And like we were just watching the Ties That Binds documentary as a team and getting to watch some skits and stuff like that or some scenes. And they were talking about Coach Bear Bryant, and I was telling Gino how my granddad played for Bear Bryant, and like he told me some stories about how they would drink like Coke at halftime instead of water, and just how much the time has changed since then.
But Alabama football, the tradition, the uniforms, it's all the same. Isn't
Right.
that crazy?
Right. And it was so cool. Like we were watching like back in the 60s and they had the same exact uniform. And I was kind of like saying that's really special.
Yeah, it's amazing too. You get to carry that legacy forward
Yeah.
into this new age, getting ready for this 2025 season.
Mhm.
Just has this experience getting to be a football player at Alabama lived up to
Mhm.
everything you hoped it would be?
It has, absolutely. I didn't really know exactly what to expect, but I just remember like being a kid praying to God, just give me a chance to play for Alabama at a young age and be able to play in the NFL and do all these things. So it's very special for me to be here in this opportunity. And I love to just be thankful and have gratitude to that and understand the influence that you have as an Alabama football player. And it's just such a great blessing.
We're all really excited to see what this
Mhm.
version of the Crimson Tide look like. What
Mhm.
separates it maybe from some others we've seen in the past?
I just think the biggest thing in all of my 3 years of playing here at Alabama, going into my third year, I just feel like the work ethic on this team and the intensity that we carry, whether it's in the weight room, at practice, the desire to get better has just been unmatched for all the teams that I've been on so far.
It's almost here. 2025 season. Wilkin Formby, thank you for the time given
Yes,
us
sir.
here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Best of luck this season. Roll Tide.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Roll Tide.
This is what being a NASCAR fan is all about. Singular history and tradition, and triple-header playoffs action to ratchet up the stakes. Get your tickets now at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com.
Appreciate the time of Wilkin Formby. We'll have Damani Jackson join us coming up on Thursday's show as we continue getting to interact with Alabama football players all throughout the season here on Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. Chris Stewart, he'll be interacting with an Alabama football player, plus the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Kalen DeBoer, coming up tomorrow with Hey Coach and the Kalen DeBoer Show, 6 p.m. bomb hours here in Tuscaloosa. Chris joins us to talk about that, plus give us his thoughts on Alabama against Florida State, plus what needs to happen on Saturday against ULM.
Chris, it's good to see you. You've had a couple days now to let the game that we just saw sink in a little bit. What are some of your main takeaways from Tallahassee?
I have moved on to coffee and away from some of our other sponsors that we've referenced over the course of the last couple of weeks on the network. But no, it's the takeaway is that it is a good sign that the guys that matter most, meaning the players and coaches, are every bit, if not more so, ticked off than the fan base. Nobody that's invested what those guys have invested wants to have a performance such as the one they had last week. They were embarrassed. They were beyond disappointed. I saw it in the locker room after the game on the faces of many as I was going to do the interview with Coach DeBoer for both TV and radio. That was a locker room that was as low as I have seen in a game that didn't directly figure into a championship. And here's the thing that we all need to remember. It's disappointing. We're embarrassed. That's okay. At the same time, it did not factor into a championship. It can if you allow it to carry over. But the reality is, outside of a perfect season, every goal that we had 1 week ago at this time is still absolutely on the table. None of that will matter if you don't get better, improve, and clean up a lot from this past ball game. But those things are still there. And so while you can be discouraged, you can be disappointed, you can be mad, you can't have any quit to you. And I don't think the guys that are in that locker room, and again, the ones that matter most, are anywhere near there. In fact, I know for a fact they have moved on. Not forgotten, but they're not dwelling on it. And so there were times last year where I think the team may have dwelled on a victory, a big victory, a little too much, and it carried over to the next week. They've got to make sure that they don't allow as a coach we all know used to say, don't waste a failure. And I don't think they're going to allow this one to be wasted.
And all coaches around the country, regardless of a win or a loss, they always point to this week, Chris, saying the best improvement you could have for a football team is between week 1 and week 2. With that in mind, what are some things you feel like this coaching staff really hopes to see on Saturday?
I think to figure out, and again, it's tough to do this maybe, other than going back and cleaning up the mistakes and correcting them on the practice field. But the issue is you got to play like you practiced. You know, we hear it a lot, and that's when you see a bad performance, you go, well, that's just a product of what you did in practice all week. You can't be surprised. You didn't get after it. You didn't play hard. That's not at all the impression that I got. I think one of the reasons that the staff is was so shocked by what we saw on the field is because they had not seen that on the practice field. And you've got to trust the work you've put in and go play more aggressive, go play with more confidence, not arrogance, not, the old Southern expression, don't go whistling past the graveyard. But these guys have worked. These guys know how to play. They know what to do. Don't play on your heels. Are there key guys missing that would help that? Absolutely there are. But that doesn't change the goal, the expectation, the standard, and they've got to get that fixed and fixed quick. I'm not just talking about in terms of a win or a loss, even though it starts with that, but it's the way you play. And I think that is what we're all anxious to see on Saturday. It's twofold. You know, when that game ended, as far as I was concerned, and I know you're the same way, Roger, this coming Saturday can't get here quick enough. And at the same time, we may want to get that taste out of our mouths. The players and coaches certainly do. But the coaches and players are wise enough to understand there's work to be done before you get there. It's not a matter of just snapping your fingers and expecting it to be fixed immediately. But it is about trusting the work that you have done for months and for a year to get ready for this season, and make sure that's not wasted either. I said don't waste a failure, but don't waste the work you've put in. By panicking, go play with a sense of urgency and go play like you've prepared yourself to play for this year.
Crimson Tide get to be at home at Bryant-Denny Stadium, Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium over the next 2 weeks, ULM and then Wisconsin. Just how refreshing is it to get back home, especially with the crowd energy and how they can impact the game starting on this Saturday?
I think you said it very well, Roger, and it's very important. You can be mad all week if you're a fan. I get it. But you need to be 100% behind them. You need to be in your seat if you've got one. Make sure somebody else has that ticket occupied if you can't be there and is in their spot, and make sure you support these guys the minute they take the field. You got to put last week behind you, just like you're asking the team to do, and go be with them. Don't sit back on your hands and on your heels, so to speak, and wait for something good to happen. Come in with the energy as a fan that you're going to help these guys and know that you are still behind them, and encourage them. And let's all expect to see the result pay off. But I think they'll get that. I think Bama fans, as disappointed as they are, will do that. They will rally behind their team. And I think we'll go out and play. Again, I'm using the term, but it has meaning. And it has to have meaning. It can't just be lip service. That you've got to go play to that standard. And I think they will on Saturday.
And, of course, on Wednesday night, we'll have Hey Coach and the Kalen DeBoer Show. And, Chris, that show has changed a little bit in the last few years, but probably my favorite change is football players getting to be there in person, getting to interact with the fans. And last week, great to see Ty Simpson there before the Florida State game. And I know you're excited about your guest tomorrow, who you've interviewed in a setting like this before, Jeremy Bernard.
Yeah, interviewed him, got a chance to spend a little bit of time in the lobby of the hotel with him and his family over the weekend. But also have traveled with him over the summer a couple of times on events where, you know, as we've talked about, one of the great things about NIL and the opportunities that come with that is players, fans being introduced directly, literally face to face with some great young men. And we know it's about winning, but when you win and you do so with young men like Jeremy Bernard, and look, the team didn't get the result, and Jeremy will tell you he's part of that. But I think there were a lot of plays we saw where he was playing some winning football without question, and is a great leader and one of the guys that's already putting in the work in the locker room and on the practice field to make sure we don't experience that. I'm looking forward to hearing and seeing Jeremy face to face again and hearing his thoughts on what's transpired this week. And he will be our guest along with Coach DeBoer and Alabama men's golf coach Jay Sewell, two-time national champion himself. Just looking forward to visiting with him. And also, look, I know people got a lot of questions for Coach. And one of the ways we're able to hopefully get more interaction and hear more is through the CTSN We used to call it Twitter, but it's X now, at UA_CTSN. Most people are familiar with that, but again, at UA_CTSN. Put in the hashtag Ask Coach DeBoer, and that's where you can get your question in. We're going to get as many of those in with Coach and with Jeremy as possible. Still there on site at Baumhower's Victory Grill, a chance to ask questions as well. But we really want to encourage the input and interaction, questions, comments. We're going to fire as many as we can, again, from that social media page from X, I should say, at UAC. Try it one more time. Slow down. UA_CTSN and the hashtag Ask Coach DeBoer. I got a false start right there. I'm trying to hurry up. I just got to settle down, go play, and I'll be fine, and so will our football team.
Absolutely. Well, the hashtag Ask Coach Sewell when he can host the radio crew at Crimson Reserve. Maybe we look forward to that at some point.
Please, Coach. Man, let me tell you what. I'm putting myself in the same category. We've played more than a couple of rounds of golf together. We don't need to mess up what is a fantastic place.
Just give me the pristine driving range and I'll be satisfied.
Just let me walk around.
Yeah.
Just let me walk around.
There we go. Well, Chris Stewart, best of luck with everything coming up this week. We look forward to seeing you on Saturday and also outside Vector Security Champions Lane. I can't wait for that coming up at 3:30 to kick off all of our coverage on Saturday afternoon. Should be a good time and hopefully a good week for the Tide, but just thank you for your time. Roll Tide.
Always appreciate you, Roger.
Well, in our radio booth on the Crimson Tide Sports Network, we have Chris Stewart on play-by-play, and then just sitting to his right, Tyler Watts, the color analyst, and we have Tyler join us on this show. Coming up every Tuesday, we'll take a look back at the Monday night edition of Crimson Tide Rewind, so we'll have what we like to call Be Kind Crimson Tide Rewind. The full show is available to listen to on the Alabama Insider podcast, a video replay as well on the CTSN YouTube channel, but here are some of the best moments from last night's first edition of the year of Crimson Tide Rewind.
Roll Tide, and welcome Crimson Tide Rewind, live from Baumhower's Victory Grill in Vestavia Hills. Roll Tide, everyone.
This is Roger Hoover. Great to be joined once again by our producer, engineer Todd Robbins, Jerry Kelly. I mean, we got to give Todd his moment. Jerry Kelly back at our Learfield studios, and please welcome in one of the longest tenured members of the Crimson Tide Sports Network, our color analyst, former Alabama quarterback, and now co-host of Crimson Tide Rewind each and every Monday night, Tyler Watts.
Thank y'all for having me on the show. Been a big fan over the years. It's good to be a part of it.
It's good to have number 14 in the house as we will be breaking down what turned out to be a 14-point loss for Alabama. Week 1 against the Florida State Seminoles. And Tyler, it's been a long time since we had a Labor Day where we were talking about a loss for the Crimson Tide on opening week.
Yeah, and I hate to continue to go back to all of the bad stats that I put on the board, but the last opening loss, I believe, was in 2001, which I was a part of against UCLA. So it was a frustrating day, needless to say, over the course down in there at Doak Campbell Stadium. It wasn't how we wanted things to go, but things kind of got off the rail early on there, and you're playing a type of game plan that you didn't anticipate nor wanted to when you're playing from behind, and the wheels just kind of fell off.
Certainly did, as Alabama again falls to Florida State in the season opener. You mentioned things did go to plan early on. Let's talk about that first drive for Alabama. What'd you like about that drive? First of all, covered the whole field and took a lot of time off the clock.
Boy, it was extremely promising, wasn't it? Just the way that Alabama came out. They were running the football. They were physical. They were getting chunk yardage on the ground. Ty Simpson looked very good as far as his decision making. He's getting rid of the ball quickly. Converted a couple of third downs, couple of fourth downs, and we're able to punch it in there to go up 7-0. You're thinking at that point, wow, this is kind of the Alabama of old. Physical up front, dominating the line of scrimmage is exactly what they wanted to hang their identity on this season. And then the second possession, you move the ball a little bit, but you stall inside of Florida State territory and don't come away with points. And, at that point, then all of a sudden you go down 14, or was it 17-7 real quick, and you're playing catch up, and that's when they kind of got out of the rhythm of what they really wanted to do, because the number of possessions was really limited because the defense really had no answers.
So with that, Alabama didn't necessarily have the balance you wanted to have because, again, that first drive ran the ball really well.
Yeah, they did. And, you had a lot of weapons on the perimeter that you were able to distribute the ball to. You evenly, you had Ron Williams involved, you had Isaiah Horton involved, Jeremy Bernard was involved, you even got your tight ends in there, and you're rotating your backs like you would want to. But then when you go down the way that they did, all of a sudden things change. We knew the rain was coming. It got sloppy there for a minute right before halftime. And if you're not down 17-7, you're probably taking some points on a couple of those possessions and kicking field goals. But it was also the mental mistakes. We saw 2nd and 4 or 5. You have a negative play, then you get a false start, then you take a sack, and all of a sudden you're kicking a 50-something yard field goal instead of a 35-yard field goal. And if you're only down 17-10 at that point, how does it look different? How does the way that you address the remainder of the game and your possessions, being willing to take points versus going for some of those 4th and mediums, how does that play out? It very easily could have been a different game had you been able to put more points on the board on some of those early possessions.
Fortunately, the Crimson Tide again fall 31-17 to Florida State in Week 1. The good news is it is Week 1. There's still a lot of season to play, and this is a very different era of college football now in this 12-team playoff.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing that all of us have to be able to just take a deep breath and not overreact any simple way, because this is a couple of plays here or there, and this is a completely different ballgame. It didn't work out, but you have to go back, not to the drawing board, not throw everything out, but just fine-tune and get better in a couple little situations that if you're able to take advantage of what Florida State's giving you, take advantage of the opportunities that you have, that game could be completely different. And Florida State plays a lot different also when it's a one-possession game because they're feeling the pressure. And your future opponents is going to be the same way. Everybody plays a whole lot more relaxed when they're up multiple possessions as opposed to one. It's not the end of the world, but you have to address your missed opportunities and make sure that you're improving in the fundamentals of every single snap, because there was a lot of mistakes made between the years as well as physically. You have to find a way to overcome those.
Well, Tyler Watts, we talked all offseason long about the quarterback competition between Ty Simpson, Austin Mack, Keelan Russell. It was announced, I believe, after the first scrimmage that Ty Simpson had the job. He made his first career start. Just your assessment of Alabama's starting quarterback.
I thought that he played well. Honestly, I don't believe that Alabama came into this game wanting to throw the ball 40-something times, but they were forced to do that. But I thought that he played good enough. He protected the football. He didn't force it into bad situations. He gave his players opportunities to make catches. Yeah, there was a couple of misses that he had that were not egregious, but they were just, maybe a yard behind the receiver that would have resulted in a reception or a touchdown or a first down. But I thought that he played good enough to win the football game. Just didn't have the supporting cast around him that really stepped it up. It was uncharacteristic, the number of drops that we had. And some of your more high-profile players really did not have as big of an impact as you were hoping that they would.
And Ty was having to scramble a lot, too, especially in the second half. Seemed like he was on the run a lot. What kind of pass rush was he facing from FSU?
Well, it's two things that were going on there. A couple of twisting games that were taking place up front, but amongst the defensive linemen that the offensive line struggled a little bit with. But, however, I think where Alabama was on the scoreboard dictated a lot of that from the standpoint of Florida State did not necessarily have to respect the run the way they were early on because they were ahead so much. That puts a lot of pressure on your offensive line, your quarterback, when the defensive front knows that you're about to throw the football. They can pin their ears back and really get after you, play a lot of games up front without the fear of that running rush attack. I think Alabama only had 39 yards or so of rushing in the second half. So that element of their game had gone away because of you're down 2 scores, you're trying to maximize the clock, and you're willing to push the ball through the air more so because an incomplete pass stops the ball and potentially gives you an extra possession or 2.
2 touchdowns, no interceptions for Ty Simpson. Again, 23 of 43 passing, 254 yards passing through the air in this ball game. And again, as the quarterback, everything's magnified. The different decisions he makes during the game. How does Alabama make sure his confidence stays high in what he's trying to do going into this week?
Well, that's the biggest thing. And, the game tape does not lie. You have to be honest with what you see with your own 2 eyes and your performance. And there's a lot that's desired that you can improve upon. It's going to be a lot of things that when they put the film on yesterday that they're like, oh man, we had an opportunity here, and here. But there's also some positive things that took place as well, and you have to make sure that you're emphasizing those to let guys know that hey, we're not far off. We just have to clean up X, Y, and Z, and we're in a different situation.
Just heard that highlight. Chris Stewart on the call for a Ty Simpson to Jeremy Bernard pass. And Jeremy Bernard, top receiver in the game for Alabama. 8 catches, 146 yards in this ball game. And he was even brought up today by Ryan Grubb, the offensive coordinator at the press conference, saying, if you want to see how we need to play, just look at what Jeremy Bernard's doing.
Yeah, and I was thinking that on the way home after the ball game. I would put the game film on for everybody and say, y'all watch number 5. This is how you play the football game. Obviously, he is selfless in what he does for other players with his ability to block on a lot of those short screens. He was responsible directly for several of the short passes becoming 15, 20-yard gains through his effort and just what he does away from the football. But he's a dude you can depend on. And as a result, Ty Simpson and the quarterback room, they trust him because, A, he's going to be out there on the field. And we saw even one time, he caught a little cramp, had to come off. He rehydrated. It didn't take him any time before he was right back out there trying to do his best to will that football team to win. So that's the type of effort that you need from everybody. It's a selflessness of just putting the team first and getting out there and getting after it.
Really good to see that for Jeremy Bernard. You mentioned he had a little cramp at one point in the ball game. Isaiah Horton, like 1 catch, 6 yards. He was a little dinged up in that ball game. Then obviously Ryan Williams leaves with a concussion. So we were talking about Alabama's depth at the running back position really leading into this game, but now depth at the wide receiver position a bit of a concern moving forward.
Well, Rico Scott had an opportunity to come in as well as Jalen Hill. You saw Derek Meadows in there. Jalen Mbakwe contributed a little bit. So they have guys that can get the job done. I'm not concerned about the depth so much, and we don't know what the status of Ryan Williams is moving forward, but it's probably best to go ahead and take a precautious angle as far as he goes and not press him because we don't necessarily need him immediately, although he had two drops in that game, and both of them were costly. They were pivotal downs, and even on the one where he got knocked out, that's a ball that should have been caught, and I thought had he caught it, he had an opportunity to split the safeties and potentially make that a huge game. But the younger guys are going to get opportunities, and I think that there's enough talent in that room that you're not necessarily going to miss a huge beat, especially from the standpoint of some of your bigger playmakers in the wide receiver room. Isaiah Horton and Williams didn't necessarily have good games.
Was that more due to the Florida State secondary or just how they were approaching things?
Well, obviously with Isaiah Horton, him going down with an injury and came back in the second half, but really wasn't 100% and came back out off from the field. It's a combination of both. I think that Florida State frustrated us a little bit, but we had plenty of cushion and opportunities to move the ball through the air, and I thought that we were able to do that. But it's just you have to finish those drives. We went inside the Florida State territory multiple times and walked away with no points, and that's something, finishing the drive with some sort of kick is paramount moving forward.
Paramount moving forward, also making sure Alabama takes care of as few penalties as possible. 8 penalties for 70 yards in this ball game, and still just it's not one main issue, it seems, just little things kept piling up during the game.
And the timing was horrible on a couple of those. Defensively, we had, 2 penalties that extended drives when you're about to make Florida State punt, and they turned both of those into scoring opportunities for the Seminoles. That was costly. Offensively, getting down inside close to the 30-yard line, then having to back up and push yourself out of field goal range opportunity, having to go for it on 4th down. Those are the mental parts that we're talking about that you have to be locked in and focused so that you're giving yourself a chance to make a play that presents itself and putting yourself in an opportunity to put points on the board.
This is what being a NASCAR fan is all about. Singular history and tradition, and triple header playoffs action to ratchet up the stakes. Get your tickets now at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com.
Crimson Tide Rewind kicked off our week of programming on the network as we get ready for Saturday, Alabama against ULM. Let's see what else is coming up in our upcoming schedule. Well, tomorrow night, as we mentioned, Hey Coach and the Kalen DeBoer Show, 6 p.m. from Baumhauer's Victory Grill in Tuscaloosa. As Chris Stewart mentioned, Jay Sewell will be there along with Jeremy Bernard and Kalen DeBoer. You can listen to it starting at 6 o'clock all across the network, Varsity Network app, as well as the video stream on all Alabama Athletics social media platforms. We'll share it on ours as well at UA_CTSN. Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, will be back with you coming up on Thursday afternoon at 2 o'clock as we'll really start to preview everything coming up with Saturday's game with ULM, including our conversation with Damani Jackson. And then on Saturday, football, the Crimson Tide at home for the first time in Tuscaloosa this season. 3:30 our airtime. We invite all of you to join us outside Vector Security Champions Lane as we start our coverage 3 hours out from kickoff. That will be at 6:45. Don't forget to watch the booth cam presented by Regions Bank as well for Alabama's home opener. Can't wait to be back at Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Coming up on Sunday, Chris Stewart will talk about the game with Kalen DeBoer on the Kalen DeBoer TV show, and then the next week we'll start with Crimson Tide Rewind, Monday night, 6 p.m. from Baumhauer's in Vestavia Hills. Make sure you follow us on all of our social media platforms at UA_CTSN for some interview clips from Crimson Drive. Hey Coach, everything will be right there at UA_CTSN, and especially if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to our channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss anything from the Crimson Tide Sports Network. That's going to wrap up this very busy Tuesday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. Huge thank you to our guest, Wilkin, Formby, Chris Stewart, plus Tyler Watts with his time with us last night on Crimson Tide Rewind. Thank you to Ethan Carabin, our video producer, put all this together, and thanks for watching. We'll be back coming up on Thursday. Crimson Drive returns again, driven by NASCAR. Until then, have a safe start to your week and roll Tide.